Hello,
I
and
am.
welcome to Lightways at Life Astrologer with me, Anna Isabel, and I am joined by Julian Venables. Hello, Julian.
Hello, Anna. Thanks very much for having me on your show. I really appreciate the invitation. So really good to be here. Thank you.
Well, I couldn't resist. After all, this did catch my eye. It is called The Divine Order. So perhaps we could start with what inspired you to write this.
Yes, thank you. Yeah. Well, I've been an astrologer for, I guess, since 1988. That's when I had my chart birth done. So I was like just around about 21 years old, and I was so wowed by astrology. I just remember saying at the time the first thing when I saw a chart and it was hand drawn with the mathematical calculations, I was like, everybody needs to be taught this in school. That was the very first thing I said. And so I've always carried that as a thing in my consciousness, like it's something that the world needs, and 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 as I've developed my astrology, I eventually decided to go pro, which was around about the year 2000. I thought I've got to learn this really properly and really get on with it and really make something happen. So that I then sort of started my proper education, as it were, which ended up with me getting the faculty diploma in 2010. I decided that I've been thinking a lot about why astrology to me sometimes is, and this could just be part of who I am because I've got Mercury and Jupiter and the Sun in Leo. So that's big thinking, big words, big, I used to find sometimes that I did a word salad. Okay. So I'd be talking to people and I'd just say blah 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 blah, blah, and I needed to come more from the counseling perspective. But then I realized I needed to come more from the what's actually happening to the client's perspective. Yeah. So they're getting these words, and a lot of it, is good. I'd always try and choose the right words, but I'd also find that I was like going into spaces where maybe some of the stuff I was saying wasn't being able to take it in by the client. They were thinking differently. Oh yeah, although people say I'm a good astrologer, which is nice, but the point is that I want to do more for the client, yeah. And I started to think about, because I've mingled a bit. I'm not a strict disciplined Buddhist by any means, okay, but I've mingled with various different things like a bit of Tibetan Buddhism. I've done a bit of quite a lot of mindfulness. I've done various different things to think about consciousness, and it started to come through to me that why aren't all astrologers enlightened? Why don't we have enlightenment? Why aren't our clients enlightened? And when we get really stuck into the astrology, we're either often in the past, reflecting memory about the past, or we're living in the future, right? Which can cause interesting states of mind. What about finding the present? Yeah. Can we do that in astrology? That was my thing, right? I started to really think about how can we be in the present with astrology. So I started to think about the structure of the chart and what happens when a chart is created. And of course, the moment of birth is the best time, is the moment, right? That's it, right? So I thought, well, what actually happens and what are we doing? Yeah. So we're recording the moment of the first breath, right? So there's something to do, right? That is in fact a present moment. The moment of the first breath is the exact present moment recorded as a moment. That creates a chart, and a chart therefore is a moment in the present. Yeah. Afterwards, yeah, it then becomes a series of events that lead to memory, right? As we move forwards, right? We progress in life, yeah? But it's a present moment thing, and it starts with the breath. So I started to think, and I want you, when I do that, I'm saying that for a reason, because I'm going to show you what I mean by that in a bit, right? But it starts with the breath, something going in, yeah? that leads to consciousness. Okay, but in that present moment, what's it like to be born, right? Okay, it's like we come in completely new, right? Completely new. There's no that we are fully conscious from the word go, but we're also aware. Yeah, we have awareness, and awareness never goes anywhere. Awareness is a pure state of actually being alive. Okay. Consciousness is the development of thinking and action into the world as we move into it, because we're consciously developing ego to move it forwards into the world. Okay. And so that is the present moment, but it's always moving forwards, right? So consciousness constantly goes like this, all right? But awareness, there's something about awareness, because we start as awareness, because there are no names for anything when we arrive, right? There is just this complete immersion into this new world, right? For the baby, right? There they are going, what on earth is going on? Who are these? What's that? What is that? What's that noise? What is that light? What is that? The five senses just going, what? It's like, okay. I better start working this one out, right? What's going on? Yeah. So it's awareness, yeah, starting to get impressions. Yeah. So this takes 4 or 5 years to live through the moon phase, yeah, of development, where there's at the first there's just complete unification with objects and things around you, right? So that's awareness. So I started to think about what they do with regards to really. I started to sort of think a little bit about the idea of things like Zen Buddhism, okay, which is a bit kind of, in a way, it's no guru, no method, no teacher. It just is. So they say do specific things to get right to the core of being right here, right now. So I adapted a few techniques to look at the idea of coming back to the present moment. Now, the reason I wanted to do this was because and this tying in with this, alongside this, was the in SolarFire. I had SolarFire. I've had it open on my desktop forever, ever since I first got the software. And I often just set the animate chart going, right? So it's just the chart is on my desktop, and whenever this computer's on, the chart is turning. Yeah. And so the chart is turning, right? So you've got the 4 angles, the horizon constantly turning like this, the midheaven doing this, and everything's turning, right? So I'm watching that, yeah. And I used to watch sometimes, things would happen, yeah, when planets rise and fall on the horizon on the 4 angles. And I'd be like, God, isn't that interesting? Emails would arrive, texts and phones, people ring the doorbell. I decide to do things, my own consciousness is motivated and moving, yeah. So I would watch my own consciousness moving, yeah, with the chart, yeah, of course, with my own understanding of my own chart as the underlay to that, but I'll be like, God, my thought just changed, things like that, and I wonder why it did that, sort of thing, right? So I was always watching that, and I still do. It's an amazing thing. It's just one of the great gifts of astrology is to have that rotating chart. But I started to think about what the chart is, and it boiled down to primary motion and secondary motion. So primary motion is the actual turning of our planet, right? So our planet rotates. So it's going around light and dark, light and dark, light and dark, facing the sunlight or not facing the sunlight in a 24-hour cycle. And that facing the sunlight, not facing the sunlight, and the turning is the ascendant, descendant, midheaven, and IC. Okay. So when you look at a solar fire chart, if you take that off as a compass, I see it like a compass, right? If you take that and have that layer and you lift it off like the layers of an onion or layers of a clock, and you lift that layer off and see it separately, then that is awareness, right? Because it's I'm on the planet, my feet are on the ground, I am on the planet that is rotating, yeah, and therefore I am actually part of that planet because I am in it, yeah. I'm in it. I'm alive, and I'm in that planet, and my feet are on the ground, yeah. If I was to be a meditation, if I was to go and sit on a meditation cushion all day, right, and I was to look at the eastern horizon, yeah, all day, right, not move, right, the whole of the heavens would have passed over and around me in the course of 24 hours while I'm staying in one spot looking at it. So that's awareness, right? So if I just, so I'm awareness, but then the consciousness part is this moving part, right, as it moves up and over. Now, so when you look at the solar fire chart, you've got the four compass, the four angles, and then you have this whole underlay underneath, yeah, and that's everything else that's going on around me, right? And how I make my decisions and how I make my actions and movements and everything else that's coming into my space, right? Which are transit, okay? So transits are things that move through awareness, okay? And I'm going to show you some experiments in it. Well, you've probably seen the experiments in the book, right? That hopefully you give them a go and see what I'm talking about, right? So the movement of the planets behind as that underlay is the secondary motion. But primary motion is that state that never changes, right? But with respect to me, to my chart, yeah, I have a fixed. I am fixed actually with the ascendant descendant, but the angle is the angles land into a constellation. So therefore, we have the ascendant in Leo or the ascendant in whatever, right? So. And that does progress, of course, as we know, over 1 degree a year sort of type stuff. But transits wise, when you look at that chart that's moving on in the present moment, then there's a chart could be cast every second, right?
Yeah.
I mean, every moment.
And it's something that always kind of floors my students when I say it, but they are the embodiment of transits that were going on in their parents' lives. Yeah. So that moment of birth, which is them, is the embodiment of a moment of time and place. Mm-hmm. It's a moment in time and place, yes. Which, if they look and see, if we're looking at a synastry between a parent and a child's chart, yes. What we're looking at, if we forget for a moment that it's two people involved, yes. It's the transits of that moment. And yes. I think it is a very important discovery when they think about it, because then they are understanding that beyond the perhaps more superficial dynamic that exists between a parent and a child, there's something else going on, which is that whatever the experience was that the parent was going through at that moment in time, mm-hmm. is embodied in their child. So what does that mean exactly? It means that if they were having a fabulous time at that moment when the birth happened, that child is, in a sense, going to epitomize that good time, and very possibly good things are going to be projected onto that child. Yes, yes. And we're talking about, let's imagine a parent without a great deal of self-awareness here, because we're talking about projections. Yes. But if that parent was going through a very difficult time at that moment, yes, the moment at which the child arrived, yes. So they are the walking part, yes, of those transits. Yes. And it could be that the reason there's tension, yes, because there's a great deal of projection that's going on, that's negative projection. Yes. So we get this in yes. all sorts of different ways. Yes. And then if we're looking at it like that, yes, we're going beyond the dynamic and we're going into something that's much more metaphysical. Yes. Because we're asking, well, what does this child mean to me?
Yes, absolutely.
What do I mean to my parent?
Yes, yes.
And I think to my mother, to my father, because that may well be underlying the whole dynamic, for
Yes,
better or for worse, of
yes,
that relationship.
absolutely, absolutely. And absolutely. And the thing is so what I've
So
very
it's
good stuff to think about.
serious when you've got a
Excellent,
dog looking
right?
like that.
Yeah. So what I try to do, okay, is may I carry on sort of taking that
Of
thread
course,
and extending
yes.
it a bit, right? So say, for example, the child was born with a difficult aspect, and therefore the parent's reaction to the child over their lifetime or as they grow up is of a difficulty, right? So say the child happened to be born with Saturn opposite the moon, or Saturn square the moon, or something like that, you know, or whatever, right? You know, then they have this ongoing potential difficulty or challenge to relate to their parents in a way that would be considered to be make life easy. It might not be easy, yeah. and the child then is growing up trying to work out solutions for that, right? Sometimes they can get very trapped by it, you know, but they definitely want to find solutions. So that child grows up, finds an astrologer, and says, you know what, I want to work out my problems in my chart. So I would now say, what I've now discovered is what I like to do is, of course, do the chart is the most important thing, but alongside the chart is to offer what I'm planning to do with my astrology now is to offer these techniques to show the difference between awareness and consciousness, and to say, well, look, you know, do these techniques, right? Recognize, you know, do the which are in the book, and I do urge you to buy my book to have a look and see what I'm revealing here, because it's pretty powerful stuff and it's very simple to do, and it resets. Okay, it does a reset, right? Instantaneously, it breaks the chain of worry or all these different things that have built up, right? Because the techniques actually show how to create a sense of universal love, or a sense of universal consciousness, by which we are all one, because we are all on the planet, feet on the ground, experiencing primary motion, yeah, all the time. And we are also all experiencing secondary motion all the time. And by having a reset, then you can actually release the past, and you can act on forgiveness immediately, right? I have had massive improvements in my life since I've started to enact this. And I mean, it was instantaneous. It was incredible, right? And of course, here's the thing, right? The astrology still works afterwards. It's not like, you know, you get this enlightening moment, right? And then you're like, oh, thank God for that, right? And now I feel completely unified, and I'm at one with all beings, because I realize we are all in one consciousness, because we all see the moon, we all see the sun, we all see the stars at night. We are all sharing that experience, yeah. And therefore, you know, just to release, yeah, a lot of personal issues can be completely released, you know, I mean, instantaneously. And it is really quite amazing. And I've got to get to do with the dog now. I know he's he's a special envoy, and he wanted to say hello. So, he's named Juniper, by the way, which is one of the things of Sirius, the dog star. So one of the herbs of Sirius is
Yes.
Juniper. Yeah. So that's his name, Junie. And anyway, my special envoy is good dog star. But so anyway, right. The point being, to come back to what I'm talking about, is to find that super empty space that exists in us, right? That what I mean by that is just get, and then, so what I'm trying to say here is astrology. How far ahead would we go as astrologers if we introduced to our community and all our clients the idea of the actual law, call it the law of manifestation or the law of attraction, yeah, What if we were just to say, let's all start doing this? Let's all start doing first person. First person is going primary motion right here, right now. Yeah. Third person is saying, I am not in myself. I'm actually objectively outside of myself. So if I go into the bathroom and look in the mirror, yeah, I'm going, oh God, you know, I'm getting older, you know, oh no, my hair's going gray. Yeah. That's objective third person, right? Oh God, what's so-and-so think of me? What's that person think? Oh no, you know, what did that, oh no, oh my goodness, yeah? And all that creates so many problems in our lives, right? But if we turn the table on ourselves and say, no, actually, I'm going to redirect to my first person center, and I'm going to look at the world from my center, then I go first person. And I instantly connect to the divine, to the creation, instantly, yeah? And it is like a cascade of light coming from the heavens, okay? And to do this is to then take on Plato and Aristotle's cosmology, right? Which is what they were doing for thousands of years, right up until Copernicus and then Galileo and finally Newton, yeah? At which point they got rid of all that that geocentric first person thinking, yeah, and they went third person objectivity. And look at the state of the world 400 years down the line, right? We're in an absolute mess. I mean, it's beyond an absolute mess. It is an absolute disaster zone out there, right? And we seriously, I mean, seriously need to refocus and come back to center, to firstly unify our consciousness. Now in astrology, we do that with primary and secondary motion, recognizing that we are all one. Okay, but you actually practice that, yeah, by instantaneously doing this, the techniques that I show you in the book. So I'm just going to say this and that, this and this will get you enlightened because I show you how to do it. Okay, then it's a case of working out. Once you get that moment, then you can start to see planets arising in yourself. Now, why do we call it the rising sign in astrology? And what is it in Buddhism that they call thoughts arising? Yeah. What is thoughts arising? It's being in the present moment and seeing my thoughts literally arising up into my consciousness. Yeah. Oh, I'm sat there meditating, yeah, but I'm looking out the window and listening to the bird song. Or someone over there's, you know, I don't know, whatever, right? You know what I mean? Coughing or something, you know, oh yeah, oh, the floor's quite nicely polished today, or that's a nice picture on the wall, or whatever, right? The consciousness all the time doing that, all the time. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. But, yeah, when you know its thoughts are rising, yeah, so therefore you can start to pick out the sense of, oh yeah, that. And that goes back to having the animate chart on sort of our screen. Because I would be doing that, looking at that, you know, things would be arising in my mind, in my consciousness, right? But all the time, I'm fully alive and aware. So I have my awareness, and then there was that consciousness layer. Is this making kind of, am I explaining myself quite well today, do you think?
Yeah, I think so. And I think what you're trying to say is that it's very worthwhile to make a connection between ourselves as a part of our planet, a part of the universe, and therefore making that connection and understanding it fully, or embracing it fully. I don't know that we can ever understand it fully, but we certainly can embrace it fully. And so it's embracing that, and perhaps then thinking about the planetary energies and interacting with them in a more dynamic way. So it's I think what I feel listening to you is that what you're wanting to do is to say that it's very tempting to look at astrology as a two-dimensional map. And what you're wanting to do is to look at it as a 3D experience, whereby we are at the center of everything, because we can only be at the center of everything, because whose eyes are we using other than our own, and what skin is sensing what's around us other than our own? We can only ever have that perspective. And equally, it has to be, astrology must be geocentric, because it is about our relationship with our solar system, with our sun. So yeah, it may not be astronomy in a sense, but it's not meant to be, because it's about the experience that we have as human beings living on planet Earth, and how we experience the rest of the solar system and its relationship with the Earth. So it's us as Earthlings looking out and thinking, oh, you know what? When the moon is full, this happens, and etc., etc. So it's very interactive in a sense, and that's what I mean by 3D. It's not just a map, it is an experience. And I think yeah, absolutely, that is exactly how there are a number of us operating in that way. And you're right, it's so enlivening, and it would be great if everybody was looking at it in that way.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm sure it can, what I've published, I think can only benefit the astrology community in a way that it complements the chart, right? It adds so much more. Yeah. And when you start to work with the idea of that state of being, it really does become quite a magical process as well. You know, one's life becomes very blissful, you know. It can be seen in that way, you know. Like, for example, you know, transits, you know, just to say a bit more, yeah, transits. Say, when I sit in my car, right, and I'm driving, yeah, am I actually going anywhere? When I do first person geocentric, yeah, I'm actually not moving, but the world is moving through me. That's really far out. Or you could be sat on a bus, or you could even be sat on a bicycle, yeah, or you could even just be walking along, right? And you can just be walking along, and it just the world is moving through me, yeah. And but particularly car driving is a good one, or being on a vehicle, because you're not actually moving, you know. My physical body is not moving, yeah, but everything's moving through me, and that is actually the essence of what a transit is, right? Because say a transit, the archetypes are coming alive in transits, right? Long, slow transits, you know. It's like, you know, something's coming through. Oh God, you know, I keep seeing these things, or keep hearing these things, or I keep coming across these people, certain things that are triggering long-term transits, and they're actually just moving through me. Because when the transit's done, right, by say 18 months down the line, you know, you have a big Saturn transit or Pluto transit or something, and anything that, you know, it moves through me, yeah, and I'm back to how I was, pretty much sort of as I was before, a bit older, a bit wiser, a bit more experienced, a bit more, you know, understood about myself, because something moved through me. Yeah. Do you see what I'm trying to say?
Yes. And I think, you know, if we forget about the physical movement of the vehicle, or the physical movement of our body, and we understand, and we see it as an act of perception, so that, yeah, okay, the movement is not the primary thing, the action is not the primary thing. What is most important, the primary thing, is what we are perceiving as we're moving, because that's where the real action is. It's in our heads, in our hearts, our emotional reactions. That's where the energy actually is. So it's not physical necessarily that you're talking about. What you're talking about is the actual perceptual experience, and as being the key to everything. And yes, life often changes when we experience those transits. But the question is, what is the inner experience? Because that's where the real action is. Yes, there is a kind of physical action, but the key action, the important action is, how did you change? As it moved through you, what did you learn? What wisdom did you acquire? Because as we all know, if you didn't get it this time,
Yeah.
get ready for next time.
Yeah, sure.
So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So very good. Yeah. So yeah, and the one of the other things I tried to talk about in the book, or introduced in the book, is the idea of planetary hours being a very key factor to seeing the state of the moment, the sort of state of being. Because if you do follow planetary hours, yeah, and say you're, as an astrologer, you're in the shopping center or something, whatever, right? You're just somewhere where you can see people moving around or whatever, in a place like a cafe or something, or a pub or whatever, right? When you watch that planetary hour change, yeah, you can actually perceptually see a shift, yeah, not only in your own mind and thinking, usually, right? The conversation will change. Say you're talking to someone, the conversation changes, there's a pause, something happens, there's a shift of some kind, but you'll see it right the way across in the space around you. Like, you'll see people, it's amazing. I mean, it's actually amazing.
It is. It's the mood of the moment. It's captured in the mood of the moment. And I think your book captures exactly the essence of our relationship with our solar system. So the book that we are discussing is The Divine Order. And I am just about to, here it is. There it is. It's The Divine Order. And I think there are some lovely gems in here, and would recommend that people check it out. So Julian, thank you very much for your time today.
Yes, thank you very much, Annabelle. Anna, can I just say my website? You can buy it on my website. So it's londonastrologer.co.uk. That's my website. Or just type my name into Google, Julian Venables Astrologer, and you'll find a link to my site. So, and you can buy the book there. And if you order it on my website, then I'll sign a copy for you. And it's printed on very nice quality paper, as Annabelle's holding a copy there. It's a much thicker paper than you would get. The other option is to go to Amazon and have an Amazon copy, which is nice, but I don't sign it, and the paper's a little bit more Amazon quality, but it's a bit cheaper actually, but not much cheaper. But so there we go. And anybody who does buy an Amazon copy and leaves a review, I will give you a complimentary reading. Okay, so if you leave the review, and I actually see the review on Amazon, then you connect with me, and I'll give you a reading. Okay, so that's my gift or offer, my offering to people. But I do hope, and if anybody wants talks, lectures on what I'm doing, I've got some really great demonstrations to show people. I really hope that I'm bringing astrology to the Great Awakening, because there's a lot of spirituality out there now, a lot of New Age following, a lot of holistic things, people talking in very wide, vast terms about sort of raising their awareness and all sorts of things. And I've written this book in order for everybody to catch up a bit, to make sure that astrology can actually be front and forward with the Great Awakening, because it needs to be, because we've got Saturn in Pisces and Pluto moving into Aquarius. So absolutely. Love you all, everybody. Thank you very much, Anna, so much. Okay, thank you so much, and I hope we get to talk again.
I'll be putting a link to your book and your website in the description box. Thank you very, very much, Julian.
Thank you. Take care all. Thank you so much, Anna. Bye for now.
And thank you all for watching. Now, next time, we'll be looking at the tradition of women, herbs, and medical astrology. Until then, goodbye. And do remember to check out my own website. Shortly to come is a course on the houses. Bye-bye.